In this video, we're going to get set up to churn the dogleg indicator part number 2. We're going to churn the whole thing. The knurling portion of it will manually enter the G code in the location where we need it. Trying to program in the CAM software with just a straight in and out move is a little difficult, and it's pretty straightforward just to pop in some G code into the program once we're done here. So we're going to start out by opening up a file that is provided. So I'm going to go over here to my Chamfer SolidWorks Boris Spider, and I'm going to click Machine Apart. Now I could open up the part initially and then go into this, but in this case I'm just going to open it up. So I go to Madison College in Churn, and I hit Open. And then I tell it the part I want. So you'd have to navigate to wherever you had downloaded these files. And I'm going to go to dogleg part number 2. My configuration will be the default configuration, and I'm going to hit Open. Takes a little bit, pulls it in here. You'll see here is my part. It's aligned correctly. In this case, my origin's in the right spot. So this one's going to be pretty easy to get the initial setup done. I'm going to start out here by accepting my stock axis as it's going along here. My stock type for my boundary, I'm going to use a bounding cylinder. So I just click my part, it gives me a representation of what my stock's going to be. I'm going to add some material to the back, maybe 1.5 inches. And on the front, 10 thousandths. And radially, I'm going to add 50 thousandths or so. I'm not quite sure what our stock size is going to be. I think this is 1.25 inches. If we have 1.375 or 1.5 stock, you'll need to modify the number here to get it to relate correctly so you don't take too big of cuts. My material in here, I'm going to use the Madison College stainless, and I'm going to accept that. I'll hit OK, and my stock is now set up. It's now asking me for my location, which would be my origin. If I look at this in my front plane and zoom in a little here, you'll see that my origin is already aligned at the end of my part, not the end of my stock, which is good. So what I have here is correct. So I'm just going to accept that. I don't need to choose anything. I hit OK. And you'll see my part is now ready to program. I'm going to do a few suppressions of a couple features to make it easier. So I'll go over to my dogleg part 2 in my property manager here, and I'm going to drop down, and these last 3 features I'm going to suppress. So I can click the bottom one, hold down Shift, and click the top one here. I can then tell it to suppress those. And you'll see now at this point I have something more along the lines of what I would actually try to machine here. Okay, so now we're ready to get some geometry that we can actually program off of. Sometimes a solid model will come in with a nice sketch that's used for revolving this. And that can be used and over just great, but this particular one was drawn with a couple circles, so it doesn't work quite that way. So we need to make some intersection curves. We need to make 2 of them. One of them will be a sketch up here, and one will be a sketch on the inside. The sketch on the inside isn't quite the right size, so we'll have to modify it based on a major-minor diameter. So to do this, we need to go to our top plane, and that gives us a slice through our part here to work with. And then we are going to go to Sketch tab. I'm going to choose that I want to start a sketch. And where it says Convert Entities, I need to say Intersection Curve. Then I'll choose the faces that I want the curve to go through. And I just want these 3. And I'll hit OK. You'll see it creates me a nice curve up top and one on the bottom. I don't need the bottom one. So I'm going to close out of the intersection curve here, and I need to get rid of that bottom one. So I'll right click anywhere on it, say Select Chain, and hit Delete on the keyboard. I'll confirm this sketch up in the upper right corner. And now you'll see that I have a nice curve that I can use for the outer churn. For the inside, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to tell it my top plane, sketch, intersection curve, and I'll choose this face and hit OK. Again, it creates two, so I'll need to get out of my intersection curves dialog box and delete the bottom one. Now this one I'm going to want to modify a little bit. This inside circle is drawn to 0.950, which is not quite the proper diameter, and I want this end to come out a little further. So I need to delete this relationship. So I'm going to click on the relationship here and delete it. And then I'm going to smart dimension from here to here what my diameter should be. For that, I'm going to go into an online calculator. And you'll see here that I had already entered in a 1-inch, 32, but there is no 40. So I had to override my threads per inch with a 40. And you'll see here I got a minor diameter of 9689. So I'm going to copy this number, and then I can paste it in divided by 2 to get what I need in SolidWorks. So I'll go back to SolidWorks, and I'm going to smart dimension this point to this origin, and I'm going to make this my pasted number divided by 2. And you'll see it gives me 4845, which is a little bit further out than this, which is good. This will give us the correct minor diameter. Then the end of it here, I'm going to have it come out a little ways. So I'm going to smart dimension this line to be 0.525 long. So that'll go out a little bit further. Still not fully defined because I need this point and this origin to be horizontal to each other. So for that, I need to get out of smart dimensioning, choose the end point of my line, hold down shift, and choose the origin. And then I'm going to make them horizontal to each other. Alright, so we have it up, we have that horizontal. So my origin. Got it on the end point there. I'll hit OK. Now I'm going to see why this is not fully defined. It's not horizontal, or in this case it's not vertical. So I'll need to take this line and I'll need to tell it to be vertical. There we go. Now it'll be fully defined. And I'll accept this. We now have both of our sketches that we need to actually do our programming. So at this point we're going to start programming the part. So I'm going to go to my Delcam tab. I'm going to tell it I'm going to add a new feature. And I'm going to pin this open. I'm going to do a few features together. I'm going to face the end off. I'm then going to turn the outside. And then I'm going to come in here and drill the hole. And then I'm going to bore the hole out. And thread it and then cut it off. So I'll start off with a face. And I'll hit OK. My location will be the end of my part. Make sure you get the end of the part, not the end of the geometry or the stock here. My thickness I don't need to worry about. My outer diameter, if I click in here, I need to choose my stock. And you'll see it will start cutting from out here and work to the inside. And I'll hit OK. So it faced it off. It's probably using an 80-degree diamond tool, which is fine. I'm now going to do a churn bore and hit OK. And for this, I'm going to choose this outer profile. And if you look closely, it will now follow the shape. Now, it won't fully get down into here, but we'll clean that up later. I'll just hit OK. And it programmed the outside, probably again using the 80-degree diamond, which is fine. We can always modify that to a 55 if we want. I'm going to do another churn bore for the inside, but before I do that, I want to drill a hole in here. So I'm going to tell it here that I want to do a hole. Then I'm going to hit OK. Now in our diameter, we're going to click on this diameter, but the problem with that is that's 0.950, and the drill size that we're going to have is a 0.9375. So we need to figure out the difference between the two. So if I type in here 0.950 minus 0.9375, it gives me 0.012, but you'll see it went a little bigger. So I need to put in a negative. And you'll see now that it tries to drill that hole a little bit smaller, and then we'll bore the size correctly. The depth of it here, I want to go a little deeper. So for our depth, I maybe would tell it maybe 0.250 deeper. That looks fine. Now you'd be drilling into the next part because we're going to be parting this off, but that's not a big deal because you're going to end up just facing it and doing the same thing on the next one. So that looks okay. We could maybe go a little less if we needed to, but we want to make sure our boring bar gets in there cleanly. So we'll hit OK here. So now that's drilled out. I'm going to close my new features so I can do a little simulation. I'll see first it comes in, faces it off. Then it comes in, drills my hole. But it didn't really spot it, so I'd want to add a spot drill. Then it comes in here and rough churns the outside off, and then it will finish churn the outside. And that's it. So let's do a little bit of tweaking. I'm going to go to my DFS tab here, and you'll see with the hole, it's just drilling it. We want it to spot drill it. So I'd have to go up to my options under Delcam, and under drilling, I'd have to check to make sure it spot drills. And I'll hit OK. Now it spot drills the hole, but it probably is going to pick some really crazy spot drill to do it. So I'm going to double click on spot drill, and you'll see it's picking, in my case, some metric spot drill. I'm going to want to grab something a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to look for a center, maybe a number 5 center, and hit OK. We'll accept that, and now resimulate. Faces it, spots it, drills it, churns the outside, finishes the outside. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now I really want it to do the outside before it drills it, because I'd want to do the outside and then I'd want it to come down and knurl it and then drill it. So to do that, I'd have to go into my ops list here, and I can drag these around. You'll see how it, does the 2 holes, and then churns. So I could click these 2 churns, and I could drag them up. So now you'll see it faces, churns, spot drills. Go back to part tree. At this point, I want to bore it out. So I'm going to do a new feature, a churn bore. I'm going to hit OK. Instead of a churn, I want this to be a bore. And my profile will be this line that we created earlier. And you'll see it'll try to bore that out. And I'll hit OK. So it bored it. Now I want to do some threading. So I'll tell it to thread. I'll hit OK. I don't have a standard thread to work off of, so I need to work with what I have. OD, no, I want an ID. I'm not looking for a sync angle. From curve, yeah, we'll do a from curve. Our profile will be this right here. And our location, we don't need a location necessarily. Oh, well, yeah, for the location, let's pick the end of our part here. And the length of it, let's pick this point here. Our pitch is going to be 1 divided by 40. Alright, so I've got everything in there, but it's not really giving me my thread yet, so I'm going to have to look and see where it's going wrong. So I'm going to turn off the from curve, and you'll see now it's giving me something here. So maybe instead of that, for my diameter, I'll pick this face out here, the outside edge here, but then I'll need to modify this. So you'll see that it's trying to do it. If I look at this from my front view, it's trying to go to the 950 instead of the 968. So in here I'd have to type in 0.9689 minus 0.950, to get that to go out that 18.9. You'll see how now that peaks correctly, right, like that. It's going a little bit too far, but if it threads in, we don't want it to thread into the next one, so maybe we would shorten that up a little bit. So for our length, maybe I'd tell it for my length to go to the end of my part here instead, and then just have it go maybe another 25 thousandths out or so to get it to work like that. I don't need this relief groove, but I really don't have a way in here of modifying that. We'll turn that off once we accept it. So I'll hit OK, and I'm going to close out of the new feature here. And I'll see I have a thread, and it does a relief groove and a thread. I don't want the relief groove, so I'm going to double click on thread 1, and here it'll see relief groove yes. I'm going to double click that and make that no. Threading, yes, that's right. Number of passes fixed at 10. Well, we're only going 16 deep, 17 deep, so 10, that's probably fine. Maybe we'll make it 12. Nah, we'll have to see how it goes. We'll hit OK. Now, if I simulate this whole thing, you'll see it face the end, giving me a little collision here. So I'm going to accept that. It's probably having that this bore, if we're doing the bore, is colliding somewhere. So I'm going to look at this more in a step-by-step simulation. So I'll single step it, faces my part off. It's coming in and trying to do that first. So it's trying to come in and do the bore before it actually drills it out. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to go to my ops list. Now this may or may not have happened on the one you're trying to do, but see, I don't want it to bore first. That clearly is not the right order of operations here. So I'm going to move first off my bore, my finish bore, down to the bottom, and I'm moving my thread after my bore. So now it should face, churn, do the whole bore. That looks a little better. I'll see what happens. Much better, huh? Threading's a little slow. It's doing it right, but it's a lot of processing as it has to churn this and do it. And there you'll see we have it threaded out. It won't look exactly like, because this is not particularly the right threading tool it's showing, but you'll put the correct one in with our micro tooling. No crashes in the back. So at this point it looks like we'd be ready to do our cutoff. So I'm going to stop the simulation, go back to my part tree, I'm going to do a new feature, and this time I'm going to unpin this. I don't need it pinned open, it's my last operation. Do a cutoff, hit OK. In this case, my location will be the end of my part, which is, okay, here, this. My outer diameter is my part here, and I want to get a chamfer around here, so I'm going to tell it to do a chamfer of 0.055. We'll start with that and see how it looks. So it's not quite enough. We'll have to tweak it. Width first. The width of it is going to be a 0.165 because that's our cutoff tool. And then we'll keep adjusting this chamfer 0.075 until it gets something pretty close. That looks pretty good. I'm going to look at this more in a front view, so I can zoom in. Need to go a little more. 0.08. That's pretty much right on the money there. You see it chamfers up a little further than it needs to, but this material will all be gone at that point. And I'll hit OK. And now if I simulate it, it does the chamfer there like that, and then it should cut it off. Of course, it's out of order again because I got rid of automatic ordering. So I would need to go back to my ops list and move my cutoffs down, like so. You'd save it then. Make sure you save it, otherwise you'll have some issues later. And I'm going to save it right in my dogleg. I'll save it right here. I'll hit save. And now if I do the full simulation, faces off the end of my part, rough churns, finish churns. Then you would put in the manual knurling, and then you'd come back here, you would spot drill, drill, bore, finish bore, and then thread. And then after the threading, it would come in here and back chamfer and then cut off. Let's see what we get. There we go, back chamfer, cut off. So it looks pretty good to me. Alright, so I'll stop simulation. You would then get your correct machine and spit out your post for whatever you're going to be working on. So that's the end of part number 2. Hopefully this helps you get it programmed correctly.